Welcome back to another episode of Follow Time with D'Amico and Blair, a podcast where dads talk about balancing fatherhood, relationships, careers, and passions. I'm D'Amico, the resident dad to a wackadoo toddler, and this week, Mayari was a little bit of a top chef. She helped me and Kate do a little meal prep for the week, and she was chopping some vegetables.
Is that what was happening when I called you earlier in the week and she was like running around with the phone?
Yes.
Sunday? Yeah. I love that, bro. Also, Mayari, I'm her favorite uncle, so shout out to me. I'm your play partner, host of Motion Country Cousin Blair, aka Sir Winnie, father to the 8-year-old who is going to her first collegiate football game tomorrow, Skull Ducks. So she's going to the Ducks versus Michigan State tomorrow. And it's like very... we go flex. It's top notch. Shout out to my boy Papa Fish. He got them in the suites. So Penelope's first experience at a football game is gonna be very bougie. Again, I told y'all you can't beat daddy. Little boy, the little $5 nosebleed seats ain't cutting it, cuz.
I'm gonna have to tune into the game. Well, this week we are joined by father, husband, founder of Buena Gente Golf and Buena Gente Design. The reason why I'm rocking this pinky ring right now, you know him, you love him, Jon Madera. Appreciate you chopping it up with us.
Appreciate y'all, man. Thank you for having me, D'Amico, Blair. What's good, guys?
That's good.
Not
You said
much,
my
man.
name just like my father-in-law does, so this is gonna be great.
You already don't like me or what?
Yeah. He's from Michoacan, so shout out at the time of recording. This is National Hispanic Heritage Month. How are you celebrating? How did you guys celebrate that in your house?
That's an interesting way to kick this off. We don't celebrate it. The Hispanic History Month, I mean, I think I'm doing it through my brand. Just being able to highlight culture, tradition, history, our ancestors, just the way we are, the way we carry ourselves, and then the way we promote our culture, right, through our way of being, just being happy, energetic, fun loving people. I think I was talking about this just yesterday. Was invited as a speaker for PGA's Hispanic Heritage Month, and they were asking about, what is it about Buena Gente? How did this come about? And I feel very, very strong about displaying our heritage in a proper way, not just drinking tequila and getting blasted on the course. And that's not all of Latinos,
Shout out.
And so, I try to do it in a way where we honor those that came before us. Southern hospitality is a thing, and it's always been a thing, and it's been a thing also in Latin culture, where people in the street, you don't know, at least not us, but our parents, grandparents would invite them and fix them a plate of food. That's Southern hospitality, and that's what I try to do and try to be with those people around me.
I think just you hitting on that point of, especially in the Hispanic or Latin community, you can't. I shout out my family out in New Jersey. They're Peruvian. I couldn't go to their house without mommy offering me a plate of food. Like that's love.
Yes.
And so like that's awesome.
I
love that.
First time she met me, she was like, "Are you hungry?" And I was like, "No, I'm gonna wait until like later on." And now, and it's been 6 years, 5 years now, 5.5 years, 6 years. Every day, every time I'm up there, every time she sees me, she's like making me a plate, like instantly, like it's a hug, and then she goes right to the kitchen and making me.
That's how they, that's how they display their love and care for people.
Big love. Sit down, let me feed you. But yeah, exactly. let's get to the first question, the real first question of the podcast, which is Jon.
I thought we were almost done.
No. Your feet stuck in the sand now, brother. You're in the chair. Here we go. No, but Jon, a question that we ask every guest that we have on, or one of our pillar questions here on the podcast is, Jon, who is your top 5 fictional fathers?
This is it was tough for me, but once I started really thinking about the person I am, my values and things, I always address things with humor, almost to the point where it's gotten me into trouble. Like my wife will be like, yo, there's times that things are serious, And so a lot of these characters, as I started thinking more and more about it, it's, how do you do things with love, um, and humor. And so my fictional characters all have that. Um, the first one, I'll start with the first one. You probably won't know, and maybe you've heard of him, but Cantinflas is from the 50s, a comedian, a Mexican comedian, and there's a movie that I watched with my wife, and it's called Bombero Atómico, where he's a firefighter, and his goddaughter visits him after she lost her mother, and basically he had to leave that job, become a policeman because it was less dangerous. But it's he does everything with humor. His face is serious, but what he says is funny. Jerry Lewis. Have you guys heard of yeah, I'm sure you've heard of Jerry Lewis. He's got a movie called Family Jewels, and I was a huge Jerry Lewis fan when I was a kid. I'd always watch the original Nutty Professor, with him, and that's still one of my favorite movies. But in Family Jewels, a girl loses, she inherited $30 million. She had to pick somebody to take care of her, so she had to choose between her six uncles, and he was the driver. He was the family person that would drive her all around, or her dad. And at the end of everything, when she had to make a choice, she had to stay with each uncle for 2 weeks. When she had to make a choice, she chose him. He was really in disguise. She knew that she was choosing him because he was always like a father figure. And always really funny, Jerry Lewis. So obviously very goofy, and that leads me to the next guy, Adam Sandler, which is interesting because of these three characters, right? And Big Daddy, it's not like he was the father. None in those first three when they're not the father, but um, they're all goofy. They're all like clumsy and immature to a certain degree,
Thank you.
and but they do everything with this a sense of being like protective over the kid. um and although they don't have the experience of being dads, they're learning as they go, but they do it with a lot of love and humor. So I thought of Adam Sandler just because some of the things that I do with my kids are just like, what? Like just the way that I teach them things, it could be a little unorthodox. But and then Tim Allen from Home Improvement. When I was young, I used to love, yeah, I used to love watching him, and the way he'd interact with his wife, the way he'd interact with his kids. The kids would do the grunts, and there are things that my kids do that I do that I'm like, damn. Like,
I didn't want to teach you that.
You're my son. You're my
yeah,
son.
you are.
It's like, ain't no
Your
DNA
daddy's
test
son.
needed, brother. That is me.
Yep. And then when I was a kid, I had this movie on replay like constantly, and it was a Goofy movie. And for me, Goofy was always my favorite. I used to go, well, we'd attend church meetings 3 times a week, and I'd have a Goofy tie, and so he was my favorite. But in
Nice.
that movie, a Goofy movie, like, his kid's a teen. My kid just turned 14, and his kid didn't really, like, he would get embarrassed by him and things like that, but he never gave up on wanting to spend time with his kid. In fact, the movie is about him going on vacation camping to reconnect with his son. But as much as his son pushed him away, he was always there for his son. So
Yeah.
those are my 5 fictional father characters.
That's a
Bro,
dope list.
Thanks, bro.
heck yeah.
Thank you.
Yo, so
I'm
like big time shout out for not having one of our top picks, which is a normal top pick, which is either Mufasa or Uncle Phil.
Yeah.
And I will also like give a shout out to my boy Fish. I mean the Fish family, here we go again.
Yeah.
His guy's Adam Sandler. Like my boy, my
Oh,
best
for
friend
real?
Kyle's, yeah, like his favorite comedian, favorite movies, like
And not
Adam
just that
Sandler.
movie, right? It's like every time
No, it's
he's a
like
dad, it's just like,
anytime
yeah,
Adam Sandler can show how I think how he is with his real children on camera,
yeah.
it go because like Grown Ups is a lot of people might
Yeah,
think
that's a
that's a
good one.
corny movie, but Grown Ups
Love
one
that
and two are
movie.
very funny movies.
Yeah, very
Love
fun.
those movies.
Heck yeah.
All the Spanglish, all of them, like,
51st Dates was like how I thought that's how I needed to be to like legit find my wife. I was like, I'm gonna need to show this girl, like if I need to, I'll show whatever girl is gonna marry me like every version of the man that she wants me to be in order. And I just had to be a bartender to my wife. That was it. I just need to be a
Still to this
bartender
day,
with a
right?
good attitude. Yeah, that was it.
I'm I'm like really like loving that list on so many different
Thank you.
levels. One, because the first two are names that I'd never like. I mean, Jerry Lewis, I know that name, but like
Yeah.
I'd never seen um either of those movies that you were referencing. So now I got some homework to do to go. I'm like, all right, let me see what John was talking about. And
Good
then
to watch with
obviously
the
you touch.
kids.
Say that again.
It's good to watch with the kids, man.
All
Mhm.
right, then
Yeah.
that's the weekend plan. That's the
Yeah.
weekend plan. And then obviously a goofy movie. Blair and I would talk about that last week, I think.
Oh, really?
Of one of the fictional fathers that
Hmm.
we are surprised that hasn't been mentioned.
Yeah, it's like an
Um,
unheralded father. Yeah.
exactly. And the one that I was actually having in my head as like another one, I'm like, man, I'm surprised no one has mentioned it, was Tim Allen. Like that was going to be another one I was going to list down the road. And I'm like, I'm glad you mentioned that because I was like, Home Improvement was like the
Yeah.
show that was on in the 90s when you came
Yeah.
home. Like it
Heck
was
yeah.
right either before or yeah, right before The Simpsons came on Fox.
Yeah.
Like that was the lineup.
Hmm.
And so like I'm surprised people haven't, especially
And
because everyone has kind of been our age. That was the show that was on.
yeah, and
Yeah.
also not even just that show, but like as like the generation right after me or
Hmm.
like right after us, they got him as Santa Claus. So like they got him
Yeah.
as not only a good father, but they got him as Santa Dad, like Dad Santa, where he was working at it. And so like yeah, it was weird that he hasn't popped up, but like I mean, you
Here
guys are
we
gonna
are.
say it now.
Yeah.
You know, shout out to John for dropping him, but y'all gonna end up saying it now. We gonna find some Santa Claus out there.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I had a chance to listen to your conversation with Clayton with Esquire Golf, links to labels.
Okay.
Um shout out Esquire Golf. You did a great job with that interview.
Thank you.
I'd love to talk about the dream or the legacy behind Buena Gente, especially as it pertains to your sons. We talk about a lot of in golf representation and how
Hmm.
important it is to see yourself in the brands that we support. And that was something that I always looked at when getting into the golf brands. I wanted to be able to see something that represented me. That's kind of why from between me and Blair, like why I wanted to do this show, this podcast. I wasn't seeing a lot of dad content that was talking about how proud we are as dads. Like you see a lot of people saying, "Hey, I'm going to do this. I'm about to go drink. I'm going to do something to escape
Mhm.
whatever this is." And I'm like, "No, this is we love this." So I would love for you to touch on the legacy you're leaving for your sons through Buena Gente Golf and Buena Gente Design.
Man, that's deep. I um I think the interesting thing about all of this is that it was never, and I've said this a couple of times, I never started this for me. Um it was, at the time when I started it, I was doing very well. Right? I was VP of product design for a data company, and so there's nothing I needed to do for my personal advancement. It was always like, how do I do things for others, for them to feel good and for them to feel great about themselves. The interesting thing, Blair, I think I've seen that you are a barber student, or you are a barber.
Yeah, I just
Um,
got done with barber school. Yeah,
Dope, congratulations. I used to
thank
cut
you.
hair when I was really young, and one of the things that would would really the reason I was passionate about it is because I loved seeing how people felt after the haircut.
Yeah.
right? And so a lot of the things that I do is how is this going to impact other people in a way where they're going to feel good about themselves? When I lived in San Jose, we used to do a lot of dinners for friends, and we'd have them over, and I'd be doing 100 things at once just so they could feel good, happy, and comfortable in my place. The best liquors, if we serve up a drink, the best meals, and I'd over stress just because I wanted to see people feel good and comfortable. And I think that is one of the motivating factors for me to start Buena Gente is, you know, I want to put something out there for other people to feel like they're being represented and feel good wearing something that represents them. I always think about that feeling as a brown person, a black person, a person of color, or just walking into let's say Dick's and seeing Travis Matthews, seeing Bad Birdie, and then seeing Buena Gente and saying, "What?" Like
Mm-hmm.
it's this is for me. Like finally, this is something, right? Or seeing, even if they don't know what Buena Gente means, seeing a brown hand. This one guy, he works in the at PGA, and he's an Indian guy, and he said, I bought the sweater just because I saw a brown hand. Like there's no other reason, right? So
Awesome.
that's really the motivating factor behind everything. But when I think about my kids over time, they always say, like my older one, he says, when I work for you or when I work for Buena Gente, right? And then the little one likes to package things with me. He asks me almost every day, you got any orders today? And he wants to help me pack up some of the orders. And it makes me feel really good that I'm creating something for them, because just like me, they're very creative, both of them. So I know that when the time comes, both of them will be in a creative position in the company. But I always tell them, not really joking around, I tell them, I'm gonna interview you like like I interview anybody else. Right?
He's like the Wayans family. Like, no, you got to work for this still,
You
partner.
gotta work for this. So
We
I
ain't
told
just
my older
giving
one,
out VP positions because you got the last name. You know what I'm saying?
exactly. I asked my older one, what do you want to do? And what are you doing right now to get that job, to get that position? So
Oh man, yeah, my
Let's add
daughter
that
knows.
resume.
My
yeah,
daughter
yeah,
is
yeah.
starting to get that realization that like Honor Club Media and what I'm doing in the chair, and when she watches it on TV, she's like I told you, D'Amico, and we said it on one of the episodes. She was like, "Yeah, Daddy, like that's my podcast," because
Yeah.
she like knows her name is Honor, so she's like Honor Club Media. You're saying my name. That's my name. That's my
Yeah.
podcast. So like she's like, I got a piece of that, and I'm like, all right, cool. Like that's what I built this for, is for you to
Mm-hmm.
one day be as creative as you are, Penelope. To be
Mm-hmm.
like, all right, like my dad set us up at second base, if not third base,
Yeah.
where I was in the nosebleeds, like Shannon said. Like I didn't even have tickets. I was outside scalping tickets. I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
make sure my daughter's on third base.
Yeah.
And I think that's like what you're doing with your kids. And I think that's what D'Amico and I have with this vision for our daughters when they watch this, or when our great grandkids watch this. It's like, I just saw a video with Joey Badass, and he said, people lie to you when they tell you that you only live once, you only die once, but you wake up to live every single day. So
Yeah.
creating something and living like today is a fulfillment of like a joyous occasion. I just saw
Mm-hmm.
that video like 3 or 4 days ago,
That's
and it's
dope.
been something that's like been with me. Yeah, it's like been with me for the past few days. So I'm like, I'm hype as hell. You know what I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about? Like to be able to share this moment and these things with my daughter. So
That's cool, man.
yeah, I think that's fire that you're doing that with your young men, and that they see it, and that they're like, yo, Pop's like, hey, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When the time come, Daddy, I got you. You know what I'm saying? Just
Yeah.
hand
Yeah.
that thing off.
And
You know what I'm saying? It's a handoff, not a pitch, because the pitch
yeah.
gonna mess up. It's a nice handoff,
Yeah, and they
right in
come
the
up with
belly.
ideas too. They're like, oh, my older one will say, oh, in the sand traps, you could put like a Buena Gente, like, and things like that, like really cool creative stuff that I'm like, man, you guys are everybody's creative. Where we have that gift. Everybody is
Mhm.
just a muscle you need to work out, right? Your creativity, just like anything else. And I see them doing that already. Like thinking, my little one, he always says, "Why don't you get all the different logos you've done and put it on one shirt?" he keeps giving me that idea, and I'm like, that's actually a good idea. I just have a bunch of better ones. No, I'm just kidding.
He's like, man, it's a great idea, dog. But like, Top Dog still has like the overseeing key.
Yeah,
You're just gonna mock it up on your computer one day, bro. You're gonna come home and he's gonna just be there.
yeah.
And he's gonna be in the corner sipping like hot cocoa in a cup. Just like, what up, pops?
But I would imagine that would be a proud moment as a
Yeah.
dad.
Yeah,
Like see your son take that initiative. Like, look, I just mocked this up. I put it on a shirt here.
And he's done that. Yeah, they both done
Love
it.
that.
They both have drawn, BG, because Buena Gente was Buena Gente brand before Buena Gente Golf. Like, not many people know that, but I had Buena Gente brand, which was just T-shirts like this with quotes and phrases and sayings that are popular in Latin culture. And so maybe 3 years since 3 years back, they've been always like scribbling BG on things. So it's cool to see them like just be really excited about things. And when I pick them up, I do a video or something. I always say, look at this video, and you could see them watching the video with a big smile, like, and that's so cool. It's cool.
They're proud of they're proud of the legacy that they see you leaving behind.
I think so.
I can only imagine that pushes the grind on them, not like in a negative way or like like they should or they need to, but like in a I get to take the baton from my father and go crazy with it, or I get to. And the fact that you listen to your young men about the ideas that they have, that probably only emboldens them to come to you as like, hey, I know that you got your whole thing going on, Dad, but like, hey, this is some ideas that the younger kids might rock with. Like, this is a whole nother like lens that for us, we don't even see. So like they come with that. It's a whole different energy. And if you let those creatives sit and be goofy with their little homies, because I've sat in the room, my daughter and her little homegirls, they're playing with dolls, and the conversation from a bird's eye view is like, all right, these little girls are crazy as hell. But like they just created a whole little mock-up mob, bro. Like, oh, y'all Ricoing. Watch out. We got a little Rico. No, so speaking of design and creativity and the flow of change, anybody who has been following your content as of late has seen that you are opening up and branding into the Buena Gente women's side. That came from a little bit of comment section, possibly your wife as well. Kind of touch on that just a little bit about, he said, no, not really. Touch on that just like a little bit on why you felt it necessary to expand your brand.
Yeah. No, to start off, I mean, my wife's she's always been a force behind everything I do. She's always rooting me on and always like pushing me to do other things because she sees potential. So she's spoken about a women's line in the past, but as a general thing, like expand your portfolio. But she doesn't play golf, so but she does have something to do with it because she's always says, put yourself in front of the camera. And I always had a problem, not a problem. I just didn't want to put myself in front of the camera as much. So when I finally did it and said, mind you, I went 2 years doing Buena Gente without sharing the story behind it. And a lot of people always tell me, I went to the PGA show in January and people would stop me and be like, you know what I love about your brand? And they tell me their interpretation of it. And I loved it. I love that it's up to the people to tell me what they get out of this. But when I finally did a video saying, why did I do this? I had 4,000 followers at the time, and just recently we hit 15,000. I would say around 70% of those followers are females. Like, an incredible amount. It's just female. And Latinas are not shy to tell you what they want. Like, they are. Where's the woman's line? But where's the... So I was pressured into it.
Primo. Primo, que pasa? What is the women's line at, bro?
No, I
Like,
was
what's
just kidding.
up?
Kidding. Yeah, man. I mean, bro, when you look at the obvious signs, right? It's like, where's the women's line? Where's the women's line? I love this. You got my full support, but where's the women's line? I mean, go through the comments and it's just like nonstop. And it started in TikTok. It's like, all right, cool, but where's the women's gear? And of course, I wanted to do something. I was just like, I don't know where to start. What do I do? And the universe led me to a female designer that has done and is still doing the full women's line for a very popular brand. I'm not going to say her name or the brand's name. I don't want to get anybody in trouble.
Shout out.
But she absolutely rocked it. Like
Let's go.
it's incredible, bro. It's incredible. Me and Luis, Nice Ball Golf, we joke around saying, "Man, I want one of them blouses for me." One of them
So
female
can I get a
blouses.
romper now?
So we touch on obviously Buena Gente Golf. I want to we normally have like a Mount Rushmore. This might be early in the conversation, but I want to ask this right now. If you could give us your top 4 Latin inspired at the turn snacks for on the golf course.
Oh, freakins have a lot of fried finger foods. So so there's these sorullitos is like these it's like almost like formed like little fingers of corn, right? And you fry them. And then most of all the fried foods are always accompanied with mayo ketchup. We call it mayo ketchup. And actually, funny story, that was my very first t-shirt apparel name. So it was called mayo ketchup. That's we can save that for another day. But I got tired of explaining to people. They would be like, "Why mayo ketchup?" And I'd be like, "Oh, we use it as a dipping sauce for our fried foods." But anyway, sorullito and pastelito, which is empanadillas. Basically, they're like fried turnovers, right? So in a lot of Latin cultures, Argentinians do it, or it's these little half moon pies that either you bake or fry. We fry everything because everything fried is better. So I would do empanadilla, sorullito, relleno de papa, which is potato. It's almost like mashed potato formed in a ball, but it's filled with meat, right? Like ground beef, and then that whole thing is fried. So all these finger foods, man, that would be the perfect golf round for me. And hopefully nobody takes my idea, but if I were to ever do a Buena Gente event, I'd want a whole pig, over Spitfire. And I always kind of imagine it'd be dope if you have like a small, piece of the pig in the back of a cart. Those girls that,
the cart girls.
Cart girls.
The beverage girls.
Hey, you want, and then with a big old machete, just be like, "Ah, ah," give you a piece of give you a piece of pork with that crackling skin. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, chicharron. Yeah, a little bit like
Chicharron,
that.
Yeah. So I think
that on a taco.
So now you know what to expect. Yeah.
I asked that question at the wrong time. I haven't had dinner yet. I am starving.
Me either, dude. Literally, I have not. It is 6. It's 6 on the West Coast. I'm starving already.
You kind of talk about your sense of humor and comedic timing. Give us an example of one of those times where you were joking and said something funny when your wife kind of needed you to be serious with your kids.
There's too many. It's hard to choose. It's hard to choose one, but it's sometimes when the situation's tense, I use humor to kind of I don't know, like break up that rigidness, that feeling, that uncomfortable feeling, and it doesn't always work out. So it's hard to pick one time, but it's it's almost in every situation. Now that I'm a little older, I know when to use it, when not to, when it's appropriate, when it's not to, when it's not appropriate. But even with my kids, I always try to be, when they need it, when I need to be stern, still deliver things with a lot of love, and still, like, sometimes with my older son, if I'm talking to him, I'm like, you need to do this, this, and that. And right when I finish, I twist his nipple, like, let's go. So it's always like, something to, break the ice a little bit. But as long as the message gets across, you know what I'm saying?
Keeping little man on his toes.
Yeah.
Whoa. Hold up just a second. Before we dive any further into the episode, we got to take a quick moment to thank you, the amazing Father Time fam, for tuning in. We seriously appreciate you hanging out with us and exploring the wild world of fatherhood as we try to balance it with relationships, careers, passions, and all the glorious chaos that comes with it. Now, did something we discussed today spark a question or maybe even a personal story that you'd love to share? Don't be shy. Drop some knowledge in the comments or slide in the DMs. We'd love to hear from you. Oh, and be sure to follow us at Father Time Pod on all social media platforms for exclusive content, behind the scenes, and much, much more. You won't want to miss it. Last but not least, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We wouldn't want you to miss out on a single dose of Father Time wisdom or laughs. We do our best. All right, that's enough from us. Let's get back to the episode. Peace.
What is something that you saw growing up that's like, I did not get it, I understand it, and now I hope to pass that on?
As you're saying, as you ask the question and you give an example, there's not a lot of things that come to mind, to be honest with you. Not a lot of things. I think the thing that's top of mind is, I grew up in a very religious setting, and not to get into religion at all, but as a young kid, it wasn't fun. you know it just wasn't fun, and there were a lot of activities and a lot of things you need to do, to hold a good name in God's eyes. I will say that now I understand, and my dad explained this to me. We lived in the Bronx, and it was really rough, and my dad was looking for something that would create an environment, a safe environment for my older siblings, and then consequently the younger ones, me, right? I'm the youngest of 5. And now looking back, I really appreciate that, because these rules that they put in place serve as a protection, right? And it I am the type of person where, even though, the first 7 years of my life I was in the Bronx and then New York, and then when my dad retired, he took us to Puerto Rico, and the high school I was in, Puerto Rico, was not great. Like, there were so many fights in one day. The fights were scheduled. It was like, all right, me and you first, then them two. It was literally like that, right?
Oh God.
But I never found myself in problems. I always, always avoided conflict, always treated people well. And I think those things that were instilled in me back then is what I'm trying to do for my family, except I want them also to have the liberty to explore for themselves, for my kids, to see, like, you know, see for yourself, explore, but at the same time, I do want to instill in them what it is to be respectful, what it is to respect your elders, and follow rules, right? When it's necessary. Don't do nothing stupid. Don't be violent, And so, um, I hope this answers your question, but
It
that's
does.
that's what comes to mind for me.
No, like that's man. When you give your answer, that kind of like expose, I guess, inside of me a lot of the things that I'm trying to instill in my daughter without instilling them in my kid the way that my mom did, which was um, by fear. I would say, like the fear of Christ, the fear of
Yes, you're
getting my
exactly
ass
right.
beat. You know what I'm saying? Like I was afraid to do anything wrong because that could pit you in like bad graces with God and then bad
Exactly.
graces with your mom and dad. So like it was always like a forceful yes or no, sir, to the
Yep.
point where like I'm yes, ma'am, and my wife. Not like in a negative way, like I'm scared of, but like respectfully, yes, ma'am. What you need,
Yeah.
babe? Mama, what you need? Yes, ma'am. I got you, mom. I got
Yeah.
you, man. Like it's all of those things. Um, and I say ma'am to my daughter. I'm like, what you need, mom? Yes,
hmm
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
hmm
No, ma'am. I don't want to do that. I'm sorry. So it's like it's ways that I feel like I want to be able to show her now, and I'm doing that with her like that. Like I'm showing her respect in the form of talking to your elders with yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir,
Yes.
no, sir, by talking to her and saying yes, ma'am, no, ma'am,
Yeah.
and hoping that that translates where she just not like everybody should call me ma'am, talk to me like this. I'm like, I've created a monster
Yeah.
because I definitely
But
don't
yeah,
want to
you
be
hit it
Dr.
on the nail.
Frankenstein.
Yeah, you hit it on the nail. It's like be respectful, but also not live your life in fear. I lived my life like that my whole life, and it's taken a lot of therapy. Vulnerable enough to talk to you guys about this. It's still ongoing therapy.
Yeah.
Um, because there's also a healthy balance of how much do you put other people in first place, and you forget yourself and things like that, right? So there's a lot of things that are good, but also with balance, and that's really what I'm trying to take some of that from my childhood and try to remix it in a better way for my kids.
Hell yeah. That's all we can do as parents is
Yeah,
our parents weren't the greatest. No, they because they didn't have all the tools. Like we grew
exactly.
up in a different society, different time. So
Yeah.
like the tools we have are completely different. And I've modified the tools that my mom's had because I've forged with other people. I've had two therapists. I'm able to talk to, thankfully, I've been able to talk to 20 fathers.
Yeah.
And I have it on wax where I'm getting knowledge in different ways of raising my child, whether it's from guys like Phil Hardy, or excuse me, Patrick Hardy. I say Phil Hardy because I'm thinking of Phil Dunphy. Whether it's Patrick Hardy or if it's Jacques Slade, where those are two of the like our elder statesmen guests, but they've also had like Jacques' kids are in their 20s. And
hmm
like you as well, like your child is 14 or 10. Like my daughter is about to be like she just turned 8. That freaks me out. We talked
Yeah.
about this last week. The thought of having a teenager is scary as hell.
hmm
The thought of having my teenager freaks me out. I'm praying for y'all. I'm not praying for me.
But
But no,
basically,
yeah,
what
it's
you're
like
doing
it's
is
just
admitting that you created a monster.
I
Yeah.
did. I did bury my daddy will. No, but it's I think that was one of those things. It's like you hit the nail on the head when you said it's remixing what our parents did. It's taking all of the good and the bad and finding a way to not not be one of those people that cries wolf or my parents did,
hmm
but my parents were able to raise me in a time that if you would have put a parent in there right like a parent from right now in your parents' shoes back in the day, they wouldn't last a minute.
No. Yeah.
And not even like not to be disrespectful to y'all, but like I mean, some of us are soft ass parents, and you
Yeah.
got to be able to eat that. Take that on the chin. Like we soft.
Yeah.
Society told us not to whoop our kids. My mama legit threw shoes at us if we didn't speak right. So you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
you live and you learn. You get the tools that you get, and you go
Yep.
with it. So
Yep.
that's really it.
Exactly.
So, John, I want to ask you because we talk about how your kids are 10,
Mhm.
14. Blair's got an 8-year-old daughter. I am far from those ages right now. My daughter is only 21 months right now. But I have seen a lot of videos that talk about like from 0 to 10, like you are your child's favorite person. Like so
Mhm.
soak up that time. right now, based on that video, your kids are leaving that time where you're not their favorite person. Obviously, they're always trying to tap in and work for Buena Gente. How have you kind of noticed that transition? Obviously, when they have their extracurriculars, I've seen your son killing it on the soccer field. Like, I see
Yep.
that. That's awesome. How have you been able to navigate that transition from being their, I'm assuming you're still their favorite person, because based on our conversation right now, you're good people. Shout out Buena Gente. Yeah.
That is good people.
Yeah.
Exactly. But how have you navigated that transition into your kids coming into like adolescence?
Great question. I think there are signs that you need to adjust the way you do things, but me personally, I don't think I've experienced them not wanting them seeing me in a different light. Like just earlier, my 14-year-old son yesterday, I told him, "Hey, go to sleep, brush your teeth," to both of them. I'm gonna take a shower when I get out. I'll put you guys to sleep. I put them to sleep every night. And then when I got out, they kept throwing the magnetic darts at the board. And I was like, listen, man, you don't get your phone tomorrow. And I don't know what I told the little one. You both get consequences. So when the older one got here from school, he was upset at me because today was the last home game from his school, the football team from his school, and all his friends are going to be there. And because he doesn't have his phone, he didn't get to coordinate with me and all this stuff. And he was upset. And I understand. But I told him, how do you know I know these things? Like, how do I know this? Actions have consequence.
Mhm.
So after a while, I just kind of did my own thing. And he said, thank you. He said, sorry, Pa. Thank you for being my best friend. And so he's 14. So I don't get that feeling, of he's moving away from me in that way. Now, me with my dad, yeah, it was a feeling. And then once I moved to Puerto Rico, that I was a little older, then I saw myself running errands with my dad, and my dad would be like, "You want to go to the car auto parts store and get something?" I'd be like, "Yeah." And then it became like weird. I was like, "Why am I hanging out with my dad?"
Why am I kicking it with you?
So, I, I
What?
I guess my point is, you see things where you need to make adjustments, but I don't necessarily see my kids as not yet, right? Like it could be in another few months or a few years where they're like, dude, I don't want nothing to do with you. But as of right now, my kid, I always said this about my 14-year-old. He's a gentle giant. He's big, but dude, honestly, if there's one thing that my wife and I can be very proud of, is the work we've done so far. It's because we hear it from everybody, dude. Like even the soccer parents from my little one say, "Oh, we love your son, the oldest one." And then the little one is so sweet. Like they're just really sweet kids. If you guys ever get to meet them, which I'm sure you will at some
I
point.
will soon.
Yeah.
I only live 4 hours away. Theo,
Yeah.
Theo Blair's
Yeah, yeah.
coming.
We almost met.
We
But
were close,
they're
close,
just
close, close, close.
they're very, very sweet. And I can't say just yet that I have that problem. Now there are times that I yell at my kid what to do during a game, and he looks at me and he's like, no. Like in the middle of the game. So I could see that he gets embarrassed. And that's what I mean by making adjustments. When he was smaller, I'd be able to yell things. Now that he's older, he gets embarrassed. And my wife gets embarrassed. My kid gets embarrassed. He's like, because I'm passionate about seeing him excel.
Yeah.
My wife just showed me a video where it's a little kid narrating the video, where he's telling the parent, if you're coming to the game to get upset, don't come. If you're coming to the game
Ooh.
to yell out orders, don't come. If you're coming to the game to get mad because we lost, don't come. Like it was, I'm getting chills again.
Yeah, dude,
Like
that really gave me
and it's
chills.
in
That hit my
it's
heart.
yeah. And at the end, I don't really remember exactly the word. It's in Spanish, but at the end it says, if you come to enjoy yourself or enjoy the game or enjoy your watching your kid, then we'll be there. Come along. And that, I felt like the whole video was made for me. I was like, kind of like, like I shrunk.
Yeah, like Mario, like when you get hit, when you got the big Mario.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jon, for giving me those words after I said it, because like now whenever Penelope like goes to her running events now, like I can just enjoy watching her run.
Yeah.
And I should, because it's her time. Like my old ass knees can barely stand up from this conversation without them popping. So.
Yeah, I can.
My brother said the same thing when his kid. He said he took his kid to the driving range. Well, his kid's in his 20s now. He's married, but when he was really small, somebody at the driving range said the best thing you could do is let the kid swing. Like, forget about how he swings or giving him lessons or whatever. In order for the kid to enjoy the sport, let him do it the way he wants to enjoy it, right? But
man,
D'Amico,
yo, unsolicited advice sometimes is fire as hell.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah.
That's how we started this podcast. We wanted to give y'all unsolicited advice from dope ass people like Jon. So what's up?
Yeah.
Exactly. Now we're here. No, I can
unsolicited advice.
Yeah, exactly. I can appreciate that sentiment coming from you, Jon, and Blair. I was on the receiving end of that. Like, I'm far from that as a dad now, but I mean, I played junior golf as a kid, and especially at the time that I was doing it, early 2000s. At the time, I was the only black kid outside of the only other black kid in Chicago that I knew that was playing golf at the time. Shout out Roger Steele. Like,
oh, really?
I knew Roger Steele because I was like, oh, that's the other black kid. I knew him from that.
Wow.
But like, I remember those moments when I wasn't playing my best and I could feel my dad's stare.
Yeah.
I could feel like he would find an excuse to just hand me a Gatorade or a Snicker bar and be like, D'Amico, quit fucking around, and try to like get me going. And that only obviously made me more tense. And at that time, I didn't have that confidence to be like, yo, dad, like, you're throwing me off even more so. And it wasn't until my mom saw me playing my first tournament, and she kind of told my dad, like, you're the problem. Like, he has a good swing, he can play well, he's showing glimpses of it, but like, whatever it is about the stare that you're giving him is just throwing him off. So I have that core memory inside of me of being on the receiving end of it. I'd like to think because I have that, I would never pass that on, or probably do that in my own way. But yeah, I think about that with my wife. She played softball, and shout out my mother-in-law. She made my father-in-law watch softball games from center field. She played catcher. Like, get as far away from her as possible and stop talking because she can hear you. So if you can't be quiet, you need to go out there.
Need to do that with my kid.
You can't. And we all know that you don't know sign language. So sit your ass out in the center field and shut the hell up.
So I'm really curious to know, because I know that this year has been a year of transition for you. You were VP of the data company or whatever, and then you kind of transitioned to not being with that company anymore. How have you kind of managed that transition, and kind of relaying the reality of what that transition meant to you, to your kids?
Wow, man. I'm still trying to figure that out. When I lost my job in January, the very next week, I went to the PGA show and I said, this is Buena Gente's year. This is it. Like, forget it, like, to the moon. And a few weeks later, I found out, we got the unfortunate news. Yeah, and made incredible connections in the PGA show. And then a few weeks later, I found out my brother had pancreatic cancer, and then from there, it was an unraveling of things. Like and his process was so quick. In 3 months, he was gone. So I feel like 2024 has kicked me in the ass, but at the same time, it hasn't stopped me from exploring things. Like I started Buena Gente Design, the studio, because people have always told me you should do your own agency or start your own, do your own thing. You're so creative. All right, so then I started that. I was one of the speakers yesterday in the PGA, and right when everybody logged off, the girl mediating the whole thing was like, "You should start a podcast." And that is probably the fourth, fifth time I've heard that. Actually, the designers from the last team that I used to manage, they were like, "You should start a podcast." Like, so I'd hear it a lot, and now that's a new thing that I'm trying to explore. So like, I'm just trying to, you know, spread seeds everywhere to see what grows, what happens, what clicks. Um, and I can honestly say that you guys are catching me still trying to figure things out. I'm still trying to figure things out. I don't have the answers, but at the same time, my wife asked me, "What are you willing to let go to become the person you need to be in order to take this to
Oh,
that, right? To that next level?" And
ooh.
yeah, listen, man, my wife's a personal development coach, trauma healing coach, and a conscious parenting coach. So she's got quotes for days, bro.
She
Like
got
she
bars.
got bars. She leaves me like that daily.
Hey,
Right?
cuz, hold on, man.
You guys,
Hold on.
come on.
Give me a second. For real. Hey, not even bullshit. I need a second, dog. What the fuck was that?
Yeah, I always so last year I took a leadership course, and one of the things was be authentic about your inauthenticities, right? And I always felt like as a VP of product design, one of the things you need to do is understand data, and I've never been a data guy, right? And when I started becoming authentic about that inauthenticity, I'm trying to be somebody I'm not. That's when I started getting recognition from people in my company, like, man, you guys are killing it. When I was being upfront about not being a data guy, it's like, listen, man, I'm not gonna work. I'm not gonna bother with this stuff. I'm gonna focus on the creative. I'm gonna focus on being empathetic with our end users. Blah blah blah. The thing is that sometimes that's valuable. Sometimes it's not. Right. So I always say I'm a creative, but I'm not a businessman. Right. And I think that thinking has held Buena Gente back. It's held me back because in order to, I've been caught in a situation where people say, all right, what do you want to do? What's next? And I'm like, I'm frozen. I'm like, shoot, that's not applicable here. So that's why my wife says, what are you willing to let go of, right? What personality traits, what, behaviors and things do you need to part with in order to become that person that's going to take Buena Gente to the next level? And that's when I had that realization last week where I was like, I need to dive into the business world, and I need to be that guy where, being creative all the time, that's cool. But when you pull back, I'm not a little kid with a crayon all the time anymore.
Mm-hmm. You're gonna have
And
to sit in the business meet with somebody.
yeah,
Somebody got a blank check for Buena Gente.
yeah, yes, yeah. And
And
I
and
just,
I, and I think that's what your wife was trying to get at. Like, yo, what if somebody came with a blank check? Like, what can you talk about? What are you
yeah,
willing to give up to? Oh,
yeah,
hey,
That's a
what
bar.
man?
yeah, yeah.
Shout out to your wife. Happy anniversary as
Yeah,
well. I think
thank
you
you,
guys
brother.
just you
Thank
guys
you,
just
thank you.
did that. Hey, man,
Yeah, yeah,
God. Hey, I don't know what chapter in the Bible it is, but in the Bible growing up, it said when a man finds a wife, he finds favor with the Lord, and that man will never not bless you when you got
yeah.
a solid one behind you or
Definitely,
beside you.
man. And
Excuse me,
and that's
man.
why I say, man, she's a driving force for a lot of the things I've done. Um, just there's been times I sit on things and I'm like, I don't know if this is gonna sell. And she's like, put it out there. And when I put it out there, it sells out a couple days. And bro, she always tells me, I'm your number one fan, man. And I really believe it, man. She's got my back through and through. But um, yeah, man, it's just a little side note. That's my appreciation
Nah, that's
for my
hey,
mom.
nah, they ain't Mama Gente, there ain't no side note.
Mama
You
Gente,
feel me? That
Mama
ain't no
Gente, I like
side note at all. You
gonna have
dig?
she's gonna have to
That's a
change her
big note.
Instagram handle to Mama Gente.
Yeah, Mama Gente. No, but that's not no side note at all, bro. We definitely shout out the wives, the
Yeah.
driving forces, because again, I brought it up last week. Without my wife
Mm.
legit buying the webcam that I'm currently still using right
Yeah.
now, and the MacBook for me, I would not have started
Yeah.
streaming, which then wouldn't have turned into me wanting to vlog golf stuff, which then turned into video games, to faking a podcast every once in a while, to legit being a podcast host with my partner right here. So
Yeah.
So we talk about your sons, knowing that Father Time, the show here, is a time capsule for us. For me, it's a way for me to give lessons and messages to my daughter when she's old enough to comprehend what we're talking about. But if you could leave a message to your boys, just words of wisdom, whatever you want to relay to them, what would you say to them that can kind of carry them forth?
Nah, I can't do that right now. Your question is deep. I appreciate you for that. But my reaction is everything. You know, they mean the world
Yeah,
to me. Yeah.
that's it. Yeah. Sometimes you can't put it into words. So I appreciate your honesty and vulnerability in not answering the question, because that in itself
Yeah.
is enough. So that's, I
Plus,
mean, we see it on.
I don't got fatherhood figured out. I remember someone saying, once your kids are older and out of the house, that's when you become an expert. So I really don't have, I do have a lot to share. You know, I do have a lot of quotes and stuff, but just right now it's, you know,
so
but I
so
appreciate
D
the question.
D, this is what I would say to you. You know how like you talk about your canon events?
Your what? The what?
D'Amico
Yeah.
D'Amico's like huge into, like we both are huge into Marvel, as you can see in the background.
Yeah.
Um, and in the MCU, they've brought up canon events and how canon events cannot change, or if they do, they're supposed to happen, right? That's how superheroes are made. You know, Spider-Man's canon event is Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
You know, all those things, right? That would be breaking the canon event for his sons. And I think for me, what I heard when you said what you said and how you answered that question, that was not a moment for the internet to have as well. That moment
Yeah.
was only for you and your boys. And coming off of the conversation of the passing of your brother and knowing how much family means to the Latin culture and to Black
Yeah.
culture, brown people,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, there's probably so many things that, man, so many things you wish you could talk about, or
Yeah.
like you wish you could call your brother and talk about some of the designs.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No. Keep it going, dude. Keep it going. This is good. This is good.
But like, um, there's probably so many things that you wish you could talk to your brother about that you're proud of. There's moments probably where you're still like, man, you remember that fucking time I told you not to, and you did. Like, man, I'm pissed off at you still. But I want to be able to hold you and let you know I'm pissed off at you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like that's what I heard
Yeah.
in your answer. Like sometimes everything's not for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything's
Yeah,
not for
man.
everybody. Sometimes those moments are a little too personal to share with the world.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, I have no problem sharing stuff. I really don't, and I have no problem being vulnerable. Um, it's it, it's it's an interesting time, you know, given that I'm trying to work out and figure out my own stuff, right? And I have therapy shoot often, you know, so it's I don't have things figured out, and when I think I do have it figured out, then there's a life lesson for me. We're just students of life, basically. So um, I will say that I hadn't gone to New York to visit my brother, and when he was sick, all right, and I planned to visit him. He got excited and tell me we could do this, that. Me knowing that he didn't have the strength, and this is for you, Blair, given that your mom's not in the same state. He told me something, bro. I'll never forget. He told me, "Man, you're gonna wish you would have came sooner." So that rocked me, bro. It rocked me. So just keep that in mind. You know what I'm saying?
I can just to give my man here a minute. I can
Yeah.
appreciate that just because my mom lives in a different state. She's making moves to try to come to
Hmm.
Chicago and be closer to her granddaughter. Um, but I have a tense relationship with my dad,
Yeah.
and I absolutely adore and love and respect my dad. But we just kind of butt heads
Hmm. Hmm.
more as adults because I've forgiven him as a dad when I was a kid.
Okay.
Like um I look back and
Good for
I'm
you.
very thankful. Yeah, I'm thankful. Thank you. I'm very thankful for the person I am sitting in this chair talking with you, talking with Blair,
Yeah.
um, being a husband, being a father. I'm very thankful for the person I am today. And I know without the lessons and the way that my dad was with me as a child, I wouldn't be where I am now.
Hmm.
But see, my issues with him are more as an adult. And I need I need you to see that that's what the problem is. My problem isn't with you and how I was and how we were when I was a kid. And so it's hard, and I'm always struggling with letting him back into my life, bringing him into my daughter's life, because
Yeah.
I do feel those moments. I'm like, I'm going to have that regret. I want to mend that relationship because I'm like, I don't want to
Yeah.
live with that,
Sure.
knowing how much I do care about him. But it's hard sometimes to get past that, because I'm like, I don't want to do my daughter a disservice to not know her grandpa.
Hmm.
But at the moment, the relationship between father and son is too toxic to introduce to my daughter. And I'm like, I'm right now I'm trying to protect you.
Yeah.
But I do always feel that, like, you'll miss me when I'm gone type of thing. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard. So
Sure.
I can appreciate that message that your brother left you and that you're
Hmm.
bestowing onto me and to Blair. It's not something
Yeah.
I take lightly. I can tell by the look on my co-host's face, like it's not something he takes lightly,
Yeah. Yeah.
either. Um, was not expecting that the question I asked you would lead us down this
Bro,
path, but
you
Your
I'm
fault, bro.
but I'm happy that it did. I'm happy that
Of course.
you responded as eloquently as you did, and like Blair said, like, like not everything is for the internet, and that's a lesson for me. That's a lesson for a lot of folks that are on social media.
yeah,
I don't
dog.
post my daughter's face on the internet because it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
And so like that's a lesson for me as a host of a podcast and people like this platform. It's not for
Yeah.
everybody. And so I appreciate that lesson that I've learned, that I'm like, just because I can answer that question does not mean that everyone wants to, like,
Yeah.
you
And I
can answer
think,
But
that
you
question,
didn't do anything. Yeah, you didn't. I just want to
mm,
make clear. Like you didn't do anything wrong. If anything, it opened a conversation that many other people might benefit from. Um, Emotions to tap into that probably we haven't tapped into, and emotions just like those big trucks, you hear them release pressure. Psh, they have to release pressure in order to keep
yeah,
moving. We have to release pressure one way or another. Sometimes it's through, you know, a good cry, a good yell into a pillow, whatever it is. But it's important that um, through your podcast, Father Time, we're not always just dishing out, um, you know, advice, but also that it's important to know that as men in this new age, right, that it's very normal to feel feelings. Feelings are there. It's another thing my wife says. Feelings are there to communicate to us what's going on in our life, right? And it's important to feel. It's important to feel. You know, we just happen to do it on Father Time, which is actually really good. You know,
And
it's
hella healthy.
Father. It's yeah, it's healthy.
Hella healthy.
It's good. I'm sorry I couldn't answer your question, but it's good that, you know, you can open that for people. And I just wanted to make it clear. One thing I did want to something that came to mind when you were talking, D'Amico, is that one of the things in that leadership course that they were teaching us is a concept of be out here, right? And when you're with your emotions, you're going to feel and then act according to those emotions. But when you remove yourself from that and you're out here, it's neutral. And so the guy giving the examples, he was talking about how he was always butting heads with his oldest brother. And he said, I'm going to practice being out here. I'm going to fly to Montana and be with my brother for a week. And he said that his relationship with his brother went to a whole new level, right? It's just being out here. And it's something you have to practice. It's not easy. It's almost like, be out there, look at the deer out here, look at the leaves, right? And I did that with my brother, my oldest one, the one that passed away, because him being the oldest, me being the youngest, and then just personalities, we didn't always see eye to eye. And I remember I used to tell my wife, man, it's hard to get a word in when he's talking to me. And my wife said, why do you need to talk? And that blew me away, Doug. It
Bro,
blew
who
me
the
away.
hell did you marry?
Yeah,
Good
Doug. Yeah,
God.
for real, for real. When I started having conversations with him, I started putting those two things in practice. I started thinking to myself, do I need to talk? Why do I need to talk? So somebody else could hear me? And then what? Right? And then I started practicing being out here with my brother, and our relationship, unfortunately, the one where I put that in practice with, and the one that it grew in these past 2 years, unfortunately, I'm not able to share some of the accomplishments, because he wore Buena Gente every day. You know, I have three other siblings, and he was the only one checking in on me every single day. And so our relationship just went to a whole other level when I started forgetting about my feelings and why I need to talk and why my feelings need to be validated, and just being out here, you know, and practicing that over time. I mean, I don't if it helps in any way, you know, with you and your situation, but I think it really helped me, you know.
I I appreciate that. I think about that now. Like, yeah, like as you were saying, like like why do you need to be heard? Like why do you need to get in a word in? I'm like,
Yeah.
that's what I feel with my dad. I'm like, there is a part of me being his son that I was like, I do want to be heard, because for my whole childhood I felt like I wasn't. So there is a part of me that feels that
Yeah.
those feelings, or what I'm feeling right now, needs to be heard.
Hmm.
Especially because it's not about my childhood anymore. It's about me as an adult, me as a dad. Like that. Yeah, there's so many different layers to
Sure, sure.
that relationship. But I'm going to take this conversation to that, and like you said, be out there. I don't know if I'll be able to spend a week in Arizona with my dad,
I did the
but
same practice with my dad, dude. I did the same practice with my dad. I went to Puerto Rico, and I learned some interesting things about my upbringing, bro, and did the same practice. But I mean, it's letting them speak, and you learn
Yeah,
so much about their personality and the person they are,
for sure.
because they didn't make their personalities by themselves. They have their ontological, religious, cultural, backgrounds and stuff that shaped them, right? My dad had a traumatic upbringing. Therefore, I can't expect him to be like to give me everything I needed as a young kid.
Yeah, I'm excited about the possibility of rebuilding a relationship with my dad, because like for you and your sons, like for a long time I felt like my dad was my best friend, and like
Mhm.
I wanted to be just like him. For a long time I wanted to be a junior. Like I really wanted to follow in his footsteps, everything except the business that he had started. Like
Yeah.
he owned a collection agency, a debt collection agency. I'm like, I don't really know if I want to be a part of that. But I will take that. And like you said, like 2024 has been a transformative year for you. It has been for me, with
Mhm.
going on this venture with Blair, and I'm gonna keep it going. So one of the last questions that we ask every guest is, Jon, if you could give a day one dad one piece of advice, holding his baby for the first time, what's that one piece of advice that you would give that day one dad?
And you got to give this one. This is not one you can withhold.
I think something I learned recently, but it's applicable in all aspects of life, is don't attach yourself to outcomes, right? Because when you attach yourself to an outcome, you will feel let down. Um, so, I mean, I always say, I tell my kids, look, Bruce Lee said, be water, my friends, go with the flow. Water could take the shape of a bottle or a cup, um, and it could crash and it could flow. Just be water. There's going to be highs and lows, and it's just how you respond to those um to those challenges, and how level-headed are you when you have those wins. And the same thing goes for when you're raising a kid, right? There's going to be things that you might expect for your kid to do. For example, my kid was uh, 13 months, a year and a month, and I was like, why isn't he walking? Like things like that. And I see little girls walking at 8 months up. What's going on? My buddy was like, why isn't your kid talking? Like, things like that. And comparing yourself to other dads, comparing your kid to other kids, you know it's it's really hurtful. And so I would say two things came out of that: it's comparing yourself and also attaching yourself to outcomes. Um, Going back now, I don't know if I'm allowed to, but one of the things we have written over there that I really like, that we tell the kids, is when you do the hard things in life, life will be easy. When you do easy things in life, life will be hard. So going back to the question that I couldn't answer before, it's not necessarily what I was thinking at the moment, because what I was thinking at the moment got me emotional. But now I'm going on to something else. I think that's, I gave you a few answers to that one question that you had.
So one last thing before we get you up out the chair is, if you could get anybody in the chair like you are right now for some much needed father time, but you can help us get them there, who would you get here?
Jeez, man.
Yeah, we need you to go through your
Do,
Rolodex
yeah.
contacts.
Do you guys, they have to be in the golf
Nope,
space?
No.
got to be in the dad
You
space.
got to be
That's
in the
Yeah.
it.
dad space.
That is the only stipulation. Being a
Yeah.
father.
You know, somebody that I think is, we just we get along and we are on the same frequency, is Justin Davis. So you've seen him. He's the model for everything. Callaway and all these, right? All these brands before he got into golf, which is what he wanted. He was a model for like Nike and Target and all these big brands, and now he's modeling for all the golf brands.
Now
That's
he's
what
got
he
the
wanted
golf
to
on.
do. So he has a 16-year-old daughter, and he's just a really level-headed guy, like a really, really level-headed guy. And I think you guys, it would be similar, the conversation. Not that that's good, not that that's what you have to do in order for it to be a good one. I just feel that when we have conversations, they're deep. They're deep. And
Nice. That's what we want.
yeah. So I'd put you in contact with him, or for you guys to reach out to him.
Justin
coming.
Davis, we coming for you, bro. DMs.
Yeah, because we've been told you good people.
Yeah, good people, man. Good people. So,
Y'all heard him.
Awesome.
So
A
when y'all see
three-piece.
this video, when y'all see this
Yeah.
and y'all tagged in it, it wasn't us who came for you. John sent us.
Hit my guys up, man.
For sure. So, John, we appreciate you, bro. And guys listening, everybody who's listening, you know that we say this at the end of every episode. We could have talked for forever with John, but we want to respect his time, his family's time, and all that good jazz. So, thank you all for watching. Wherever you are, make sure you subscribe, pay attention to the drops that we have on Instagram, all that good jazz. Make sure that you follow John and everything that they got going on over there at Buena Gente Golf.
Thank you, guys.
Buena Gente Golf on Instagram. Yeah, the drops are crazy. They're super fire. And of course, they are inspired by rich Latin culture. I am your play partner, host of Motion Coach, your cousin Blair, aka Sir Winnie. That's my partner, D'Amico. That's John. We love you all, man. Make sure you tell somebody you love them. Peace.
Thank you.